I'll wait till you give me the thumbs up. Live. Okay, great. It is February 23rd. The time is 5:04 p.m. This is a regular meeting of the Silverton Housing Authority, and I'll call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Trustee Halverson?
Here.
Trustee Wakefield?
Here.
Trustee Schicker? Here. Gardner?
Here.
Trustee George?
Here.
Mayor Craker?
Here. We think Mayor Pro Tem Harper is coming. I want to acknowledge that we have our lovely new town administrator here, Elizabeth Stuffings. We'll say this for the record on the opening of the regular meeting too, but we're glad you're very happy to be here. Okay. We'll open up for public comment. We'll take in-person public comment. If you're here in person, you'd like to make a public comment, you'll have 3 minutes with my very loud timer. And let's turn it on. And then if you're online and you'd like to make a public comment, please click the raise hand button and we'll promote you to panelist.
I have another one over here.
Oh, I do. I need a, nope, I just had it off. Don't mind me. Okay, welcome public comment. Here to hang out with us. Do we have any public comment on Zoom? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. And we'll move on to agenda item C, approval of the January 26th meeting minutes. Anything you want to highlight or questions from the board on the meeting minutes? We'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Halverson?
Yes.
Trustee Wakefield?
Yes.
Trustee Gardner?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Mayor Craker?
Yes.
And then I do have one agenda revision.
Oh, that's right. We don't have that in our.
I know,
Sorry, Ann.
sometimes I do and sometimes I don't.
That's right. Don't mind me.
Maybe if you get better.
That's my job.
That's okay. If we could just add something real quick before agenda item 4,
Okay.
it would be direction to draft and execute a letter of support for the town's application for the ADU grant. And since we're the same board, it will be very easy for me to just draft it, but I just need that formal direction and draft. The ADU grant was supposed to be due this Friday, but they just bumped back the deadline to March 18th, but that'll be for pre-approved ADU plans. So yeah, just gathering letters of support. I got one from the San Juan Regional Planning Commission last week. And there was a report, letter of support. And there's also a public ADU survey out there that's shared on social media and posters, hoping to gain support from property owners who are interested in pre-approved ADU plans and or people who generally support this initiative. So it's kind of both a feasibility study and a informal letter of support.
Questions from the board on the housing authority letters for you? And you want do you want a letter of support from the housing authority and the town, or from the town?
No, it'll be from the housing authority. It's the town's application.
Great.
The town obviously supports its own application.
It's not the reverse. It's not.
Mhm.
Okay. Questions or concerns from the board on that letter of support? Okay, consider yourself directed.
Great, thank you.
All right, so we're moving on to agenda item D, ESHA Special Limited Partnership Policy Draft.
So last meeting, we had a presentation from a developer in town who was interested in partnering with the Silverton Housing Authority. Under the Colorado revised statutes, we have the power to enter into these partnerships. And when we do so, we can provide sales, use, and property tax exemptions for the project. So this is the first draft of a special limited partnership policy. And this will apply to field delivery application process and any other future partnership proposals. So I have a couple items that I'm specifically looking for feedback for. They're outlined in the memo, then they're highlighted in the policy itself. Once I get your feedback, and have a general sense of the direction that we want to take this, I will create a next draft. And I'll put that in front of New Communities Law, which is our legal counsel that we've hired for Anvil Townhomes. And they're also the people who drafted that article that was in the packet last meeting. And I want to get their professional input just to make sure that we're on the right track up to standards with what other housing authorities across the state are doing. And so providing sales, use, and property tax exemptions is a privilege. So we want to make sure that when we design this policy, when we're reviewing these partnerships, that these projects provide, you know, a substantial, meaningful public benefit. At the same time, this is an incentive, and we want to stimulate the private market so that they can help us fulfill our mission. So it's striking a balance between setting the guidelines and the guardrails and having it still be a valuable and interesting partnership for developers. And so the specific points of feedback are affordability term limit. So how many years do these need to be affordable? What is affordable? So based on area median income, what is our application fee? What is our annual partnership fee? Reviewing the the income certification fee schedule. So I'll dive into all of these one by one. And then finally, authorizing either having the board make the final decision or execute the final documents, or giving staff the authority to execute the final documents. Those are my points, but if anyone else has anything that they want to add, let's add them at the end of our discussion. So let's start with section 3, dot A. Oh my gosh, I don't know my Roman numerals. This is so embarrassing. But
3.A4.
thank you. That was a gap in my education, but I'm covered.
All the super.
So.
Okay. So this is the bare minimum would be that if we enter into a partnership, these units would have to be affordable for a minimum of 15 years. This is the minimum for low income housing tax credit projects. So I think it makes sense to do that, but we could do longer, we could argue shorter. We can always negotiate these terms as well, but this is just like a general baseline.
That was my question. Was the 15 years and like why that number is, are other municipalities doing 15 years in these type of agreements too? Okay.
And then when that affordability restriction goes away, then their property then some of the tax exemptions would also go away.
We would exit the deal at that point.
Yeah.
Or we could include some stipulation that at the end of this 15 years, we would get a first right of refusal or an option to purchase. And these are all terms that can be negotiated.
Project by project.
Would that purchasing be like market rate?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, we could bring in grant subsidy to help us purchase, but I'm assuming that the general partner would want to sell for.
Yeah. Market.
Does anyone want to make a different argument for 15 years?
I would. I'd like to make it 20. I think it needs to be more.
But the tax credits expire.
But tax credits don't usually apply to these projects.
Oh.
Low income housing tax credits don't. Like, this is why we have such a hard time developing rentals in Silverton, is because a project that fits LIHTC or the low income housing tax credit needs to be big enough that it's a substantial enough investment. So that would be like a 50-unit apartment complex, and that doesn't fit here. And so projects, LIHTC projects don't really fit here. We could do scattered site. That is extremely complicated. So yeah, I don't foresee LIHTC being a player in
Mhm.
Silverton ever.
You just picked the 15 years because that is what some of.
That's industry standard
Mm.
because other places.
Money,
I'd argue for a little bit more simply because I think, we've seen, history go a certain way. I think it was 10 before, twice over. And, we saw what happened there. So I'd like to see this stay affordable. I'd like to see these.
Mm.
I mean, I'd even argue for more, but I think 20 would be okay.
Do you think that would deter developers?
they still get the exemptions for that long.
But the sales and use tax only applies for the period of construction
Right.
and then it's just property tax.
Yeah.
So
Just not nothing, right?
it's not nothing, but it's not huge either.
Yeah.
Especially in college.
So
I
what's
think
the
that's-
sales and use tax?
Sorry.
I mean, what the sales and use tax were,
Probably depends.
So it's 10%. Well, yeah,
10% on.
but that's how,
but it also depends on where they're buying things. So it's sales tax.
right,
Do you think 20 years would deter? Like, again, we're striking this balance around having a policy that's good for the town, that fits our values, and not creating a policy that no developer is ever going to partner with us. So do you have case to make and that you think one would work?
It's just industry standard for 15.
Mhm.
Has anyone, do you see others going into 20 or 30 or whatever?
Not that I've seen.
Yeah.
I did also send this to local developers requesting their feedback. I didn't receive anything. It was short notice. But if I get any comments before the next draft
Mhm.
comes up too, we can always change.
Okay.
But I just wanted, and we're sensitive on time here, it's a short meeting. But I just wanted to get a little temperature. So we'll say maybe 15 to 20 years.
yeah.
Let's put that in there, because we could always, if a developer comes and says, hey, this is, there's a negotiation process with any new project.
Yeah, so we could
Yeah,
start at
right?
22 and then
Start 20, and if
That's
someone comes
not-
back and says, I'll do this. Yeah.
Great.
How will that affect us revenue wise? With taxes and
It all depends on the project.
If we offer this exemption. It's hard to say because it totally depends on where people are buying materials. So like if someone buys all of their materials here, then we would be missing out on that, 10% sales tax.
and how about property taxes?
It depends on the property, but the livery, for example, I think was at like $5,000 here. That wouldn't be paid in property tax.
It's actually really a good deal. Based on like, if you were trying to afford, get those units built, that's more than $5,000. But I mean, it's not nothing, it's just like.
Right. It's a way to, like I said earlier, it's a privilege that we're providing these projects. And so we have to make sure that it is also providing public benefit.
Mhm.
So it's a trade-off.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's apples to apples, but I do think that providing affordable housing is a public service and public benefit.
I think the question you would just always ask ourselves as a housing authority board is, would we pay X, which is the foregone revenue, to purchase Y, which is what the developer's coming in and saying I'm doing? Would you pay $500,000 for 6 15-year deed restricted units? Well, that's when you'd have that conversation, is how much would the board want to pay for that? Okay, for sake of time, let's move to section 2, right? 30-0B1.
Yep.
The AMI.
I set the limit at 100% AMI. I think with the current cost to build, these units still require subsidy. So 100%, those rental rates, like we've seen before when talking to Jordan and looking at what the Chaffa rental rates are, these are kind of high. But even to get these high rents, like they're still pursuing a ton of subsidy. And so my suggestion is that we start at 100%. And then as this policy moves on and times change and construction costs go down or up, or AMIs go down or up, we want to make sure that we're providing this benefit in scenarios where it'll help subsidize it'll help lower the rents rather than just like giving people free money, developers free money.
Any comments on the 100%?
And I'd say without the like low income housing tax credit or without DOH dollars, it would be, I don't know how you would go much lower.
Like you're saying, if the board is trying to say we want 80%, because that's what we think people in town can afford. That's not what a developer can afford to build at, you know?
Mhm.
Leave
And
it.
these can always be this is just a suggestion. It can always be changed later.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because
I think
if a developer comes to us and says like,
Yeah.
oh, we find a grant, that's like, hey, we can make this project happen together, but the
Yeah.
AMI has to be X, then we have that conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. Application fee. And this is different than the income verification fee.
Yeah, so when a developer wants to propose that we join them in a partnership, it would be a non-refundable fee due at the time of application. And that is just to cover staff costs of review. This doesn't include legal fees, but legal fees will be paid by the applicant. So the housing authority will just invoice the applicant no matter what. And I felt comfortable doing it that way because it's hard to say or estimate how much legal review a project is going to require. And so instead of like, let's just say charge $10,000 per application and hope that our legal fees stay within that, I said, let's do a smaller initial application fee and then just invoice for our attorney fees. We're kind of in the middle of what other housing authorities are doing. Maybe higher end of middle, but in considering that the housing authority doesn't have substantial revenue sources, I figured we could, you know, start at 3,000, but again, we don't want to deter folks from applying based on this fee.
Let's try it. I mean, if it's like, we don't see anybody, these are so tricky in our town because it's so one-off, you know, we're so tiny. You never know what kind of developer is gonna come and be interested in doing this. And it's $1,000 fee versus a $3,000 fee. I don't know. For some small scale developers, that might be a big deal. For others, it might not be. So it's hard to know.
And
I
also,
would advocate for something lower or something higher. It sounds like not.
in addition, or so once the partnership is executed, annually, the fee will be 10% of the prior year's assessed property tax obligation. And this will just be a steady source of income. No matter how involved we are in the project. So we could be so removed from this and just have a little bit of money coming in. Other housing authorities have much higher annual partnership fees. But I think based on the size of these projects, that doesn't make sense. And based on the amount of savings that this exemption would offer, it doesn't quite make sense. And so this is what I have put out there.
I'm seeing thumbs up. There's a thumbs up.
Great. The housing authority will require income certification. And a developer could hire a third party to provide that certification, or if they wanted to use the housing authority, this was my suggested fee schedule. So $2,000 for 1 to 9 units. And that includes initial certifications for however many units. But say, like, let's use delivery for an example, it'd be 6 units. if they do 6-month leases
Hmm.
and they have new tenants coming in every time,
Mhm.
we would, once we got past that initial 6, we would start charging $475 per initial application.
So each time there's a new leasee, then it,
But if it was the same tenant recertifying, it would just be covered in that fee. Yeah, I think this is something too that could go higher as time goes on, like we can always adjust our fee schedule. I feel like this is a reasonable start.
anybody arguing for something different? Okay, seeing thumbs up, thank you, Anne.
Okay, when the time comes that the housing authority has decided that they want to form a partnership, either that decision regardless will always be made in a housing authority meeting. But section 6.3 would either say the board needs to sign the actual agreement in person at that meeting, or the board authorizes the executive director to execute the partnership agreements. So that's just up to you guys
Mhm.
on the level of control. In all the different policies that I reviewed, everyone was either or.
Mhm. So does the housing, would this board like to recommend that the housing authority would review and sign the documentation, or we would authorize the executive director to do that?
We typically do authorizations, right?
Just like staying consistent within our policy, right?
Yeah, like for example, when we're gonna lease the groomer, you know,
Yeah,
resolution.
we
when lease the groomer,
authorize.
We have a formal meeting, we have a resolution, but then we're like authorizing the staff to
Yeah.
go
I mean-
sign the paperwork.
I think it's more transparent, that process.
Yeah.
It might be a little bit more meetings, but that's what I'd say.
So you're saying review the documentation, but authorize the
Yeah.
staff to sign? Or no, but not that. Wait,
It's either Dana signs or I sign.
Yeah,
Regardless, it's gonna go in front of the board and the board is
Yeah,
going
yeah,
to
yeah.
decide, but it's just who has the power.
Right, and
to
who's
execute.
delegated, you can sign if it's come in front of the board.
yeah.
I mean, I guess, but
Just the other way, we authorize staff to sign for the groomer,
Mhm.
right? Yeah,
Mhm.
so I think
Right.
that makes sense.
And when we entered the construction, or when we signed the construction loan for the townhomes, you guys made the decision, but I was the one that signed the documents.
Yes. Mhm.
same policy?
I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, you can think about like future executive directors too, but this is how it works with town too.
Yeah, I think just staying consistent within policy.
Great. Any other comments on the policy?
Maybe this is too early to ask this question, but say we go into partnership with somebody and our partner goes belly up before he completes the project. What's the liability on the town?
It totally depends on our percentage of the ownership and how the deal is structured. And so most cases, there's no liability for the town, or it'd be limited. And I can get more direct or more information on that. But these deals can be structured so that there's very limited exposure for the housing authority.
Another question I have is, would some developers in town consider it a conflict of interest if we're part owners in a building and we have a building inspector that's employed by the town? And he feels that we're doing favoritism with our project versus his.
It's a good question for the developers. Yeah.
I mean, in this instance, more often than not, it would be the housing authority entering into the agreement, or is it the town?
It would 100% be the housing authority.
Right, and I mean, the challenge is that it's the same board, right? We sit as the same board, so it is two different entities, but we are the same board.
Mhm.
But yeah, there certainly could be parents of that, so I think it'd be curious to see if that came up. I mean, I would hope that we would operate with integrity.
Ron, I will inquire with our attorney on these things. and see what he thinks.
Good question. Any other questions on this draft policy?
It always makes me nervous when we're the minority stakeholder in this. You are tending to be at the mercy of the other people. You don't have a vote. If we were to do it, well, we can't afford to. I prefer we had the 51% interest instead of the 1%.
Show me the money.
I think that's, we're gonna probably have to rely also on how the contract is written too. That's what's really gonna help protect us, but
But bring all those questions then when we have the project in front of us with the actual terms.
Yeah.
Good questions, Ron. Keep those. Okay, and more questions on this, on the policy? Very good. Thank you for drafting that. Really appreciate it. All right, so it's gonna make it very awkward for everybody here in just a second, but we have an executive session scheduled for just a little bit. So we're gonna ask you guys all to exit, hang out downstairs in the lobby. We will have a short executive session and then we will holler at you guys when we're done. We're gonna be talking about, this is gonna be an executive session concerning the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, sale of any real personal or other property interests. So hang loose, I don't know, check out the brochures down in the basement. And we will holler in just shortly when we're done. And then.
You can stay, Bevan.
Let's see, if we're gonna be. My recorder and leave it. Melina, we'll entertain the motion to go into executive session and then we'll lock the meeting. Yeah, okay. So, I would entertain a motion to enter executive session under CRS 24-6-4024A concerning the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, sale of any real personal or other property interest via the housing authority of the town of Silverton.
second.
Seconded by Tyler. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Nope. Okay, motion carries to enter executive session. All right, Melina, I'll wait till you're done.